Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about the most important thing in this planet, versioning control. So let's dive deep into it. Now, what exactly is the problem? Well, be mindful, I'm focusing on software side of things, but it applies to everything. Now, we are making big things, we are making complex things. Now, consequence of those two things is that it has to be done step by step, meaning let's say you are building a train. You're not going to be like, train, done. You're going to be like, first metal foundry, metal refinery. You're going to sort all those puppies out. Then you're going to be like, who's going to cast the wheel? Then you're going to design the wheel. Then you're going to make the bogies. Then you're going to figure out the springs. So all that jazz. Like, it takes way too much thing. On top of that, it also requires a large group of people. And any Tom, Dick and Harry who has to deal with large group of people, it's a nightmare. So you will start very happy and then you'll be like, it happens. So it's one of those things. So how the heck you allow a large group of people working on a complex thing over time? It's a very difficult problem to solve. So it's a management nightmare. Let that be very clear. And many times we hate management simply because of that. Their job is so brutal, so unapologetically frustrating that they're bitter about it. Again, you would be too, trust me. It's one of those things that's a cycle of the world where it's like, I will be a better manager, you become a manager and you're even worse than the last one. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like very hard thing to do, basically. You have to allow people to work on their part while syncing everybody else to what everybody else is also doing. So somehow there has to be this ether world where everything is in sync and everybody is working on their part without, stopping other or without causing hassle. Yeah. And sometimes it could be literally across the world. So God help you. So fundamentally, it's a very difficult thing. On top of that, that's just the larger file. What about the individual? Each individual also need their own versioning system. Now, if you are a very starter level computer user, you must have suffered from this. That is new, whatever your file may be, new file. New final, when you think, okay, it's not done, I'm going to be like a new file. Then it's like, any feedback happened, any changes had to happen. New final. New final, last final. New final, last final for sure. New final, F this. That's what happened. It's like, I love this name, file name. It's like project 2, project final 2, project final, project final, this one, project final, this one, seriously, project final, look here first, project final, actually no, look here, this is the last one, and the same thing 2 times. Now, I know this is a bit of an exaggeration, but trust me, many times people do not learn file naming conventions and like versioning, and yeah, this happens. And I can guarantee you, almost all of you must have gone through this. Yes, I also have gone through this. I have learned to automate this by using basically auto hotkey. And if it's a daily file, date. And if it's basically I'm doing inside a day, date and time, done. I do not even have to worry about anything else. So this is a problem. How the heck you sync so many things? And when every user must have the ability to go back if they boomed anything. So this is a big ass problem. So versioning is the solution. So the idea is you start with a file with a name, whatever the name may be. Even in PCB designs, the same thing will happen. So you'll start with a file name. Let's say when I was a game artist, it will be like, okay, I'm working on something. So it would be like, let's say game, name and environment and this asset. That will be the final name, but here's it. That's it. From day one, that's the file name there. And that will never be tampered again because again, that will be referenced to everything else. So whenever somebody needs to see what I'm working on, they will not ask me. They will just reference that file and it will give them the latest update that I have done. Anything basically I have committed, they will see it. That's why file name will never change. And that's another requirement. If you keep changing file name, like how I said, like you can put date and time, it's good for you. But if somebody else is referencing your stuff, yeah, it's going to break instantaneously. So we need to basically find a way where we can have only one file name. And it should be easy for the user because here's the, it is fact, when you are versioning, computer is saving each of the file, but you are not seeing it. It's gone. You do not see it. It's just like, it's there, but somewhere. So it has to be like that. Otherwise, like you open a repository and it's like thousands of the same file, it will be unbearably destructive. So they're working on versioning and every user sees their one file. For example, this would be the example that I used to work in Game Studio. So there will be a repository and let's say I'm environmental artist, I'm here. Vehicle artist would be here. And let's say environmental, vehicle or asset teams or character models, they will be here. So each person will start the day let's say from a brand new, we'll just gonna create a placeholder file. This is the file, placeholder name, done, update the repository will get the updated, and programmer will start to literally pull that in the game engine. Generally in game studios, you have far more artists than you have programmers. So you could literally, if a 200 team is there, you could only have 50 programmers and then 25 animators and all that. Artist, everybody else would be artist. So everybody is syncing to repository, and hopefully we generally learn a habit. So once you finish your work, you commit it, basically you send it to repository. So next day when everybody comes along, they will do update, so they will get the latest file. So each individual is going to get the last commit from each other individual. They do not have to worry about, so if they have, let's say, building environment, you do need other files to make it cohesive. So for that reason, you'll be like, hey, I'm going to put his vehicle, let's see how it feels, does it scale looks right, does the color match, all that jazz you're going to do. Same will be characterized, like does it belong here, or it's like all that. So all that will be managed by the repository. We are updating, everybody is getting the sample. Now this is 3, realistically you will have bare minimum hundreds. So this is how we sort if you have each individual file being created. This is generally how it's done in PCB also. You could be like, hey, let's say you are working on a laptop, it will be like one individual would be like, I'm working on the display assembly, I'm working on the keyboard assembly, I'm working on the motherboard assembly. So everybody will get there, or somebody else would be like, I'm working on battery BMS. So this is how we allow everybody to have one file while having versioning. So if they are uploaded on, let's say, 18th and then they uploaded on 19th, they have the 18th, they can fall back to it. Let's say they did a change and it bricked anything here. It's like, hey, this is not working, man, this is gonna break it. And then it was decided, let's roll back. They can do that. Even though they have one file, the versioning system will have in ether a version of the past, or every commit that you have. So every version that is committed is saved for fallback state, meaning you can just roll it back. It's like a very good backup system. You can, not only you have the file, you also have the backup file. So you can keep going back. And sometimes, this is the easy part, but sometimes something hard happens. This happens, is that you have one file and you have to edit inside that. Yeah, God help you if you have to do that. For example, in my open source project that I just recently did in my year-end break, there were different files. There were one script and then there were icon files. Any Tom, Dick and Harry can work on icon file without any issue, because again, it's an independent thing. But when you are talking about the script, there were 2 programmers working on one script file. There was that one Python script file, and 2 programmers have to work inside one file. God help you, that's a very difficult problem to solve. Now be mindful, it's difficult but not unsolvable. However, it is tried to be avoided, and if you keep hearing the word refactor code, break it into chunks, that's the reason for it. If it's an independent shell, let's say GUI, or whatever you require for a graphical user interface, is separated into one chunk, or ideally a completely separate file, it will be super easy for GUI artists to just work on that. And then let's say you have file handling, file management and file handling. You have a different script for that. It would be awesome for that individual to just sort on that. So, but it's not viable to do this all the time. So realistically, you're gonna have this. So how do we manage it? Well, we just hope and pray. So what you do is, like, you take one file, you branch it. You're gonna take the file and it's like, clone it basically, and then one individual say, hey, I'm gonna work on the file naming section of it, and they're not gonna touch anything else. You just have to make sure. Then the another individual, it could be working on, let's say, a refresh rate. They will be working on how the heck refresh rate is happening. You both is gonna work, and then at the end of the day, you're gonna merge it. Now this merging will only happen if you have not contradicted each other. It can be done if good discipline with good structure designed before project started. It can be done quite effectively, and it can be done multiple times. Sometimes you will have branch, another branch, and you're like, why the heck we need this many? Well, here's the deal, you need to, because many times things have way many things going inside. Like, imagine how many branches are there in an operating system. If you imagine hundreds, that's the reality of it. There has to be someone who's working solely on audio drivers. There has to be someone who's working on just to make sure mouse input works. Just somebody is there just to make sure the keyboard works. And yes, it is that complex. So it has to be managed like this. And then they'll keep compiling it at the other end. However, whenever we have to do in this single file architecture, it does come with a risk of conflict. Now, whenever we are talking about it, we're gonna be looking ugly, or might simply say error message. Here is gonna be conflict. Here is going to be like, the file may have been deleted, file is not being called or something like that. Here it's like, it's going to break everything. In Hindi we have say code phat gaya. Basically, it exploded. So code does explode. If you are like, let's say you are merging this puppy here and it was not properly balanced, it could break the system. Ideally, it should not happen because conflict will require resolution before it allows you to force. But that's why this meme is there. Git push dash dash force it. Problem solved. It does not solve the problem, it just explodes it. And sometimes people who have not been treated right, they got a bit angry, and on their last day, they forced something naughty into the main branch. God help you if that happened to you. And yes, smaller studios, companies have gone bust because of that. So it's one of those things, branching and working on the one, awesome, but it does create a risk of conflict. And generally you have to add commit for every commit. So it's not only for basically your team, but it's also for you. Commenting is a really nice way of doing it. Trust me, I have learned this the hard way. Like when we started, they taught us everything. It's like, oh, this is how you're gonna comment. It's like none of us, like we had like 7 to 8 people had joined at that time. None of us were like, actually commenting. They're like, bro, you have to comment, like write exactly what you did. And trust me, we learned very early on why the heck we is there. So this is versioning. This is how the world works. Everything. You buy a Creality 3D printer, it's like, hey, why the heck board has like version 4.22? I can guarantee you somebody is working on version 2.7. Oh, that's a different board. You get the point. Branches. So versioning is the only reason we can build complex things nowadays. Now, what about the softwares? Are there tools? There are many tools. I'm going to give you an example of two of my first experience. There was this tool known as CVS. Because of the need and importance of this thing, this was made before we started to make giant program, before we started to jump. Basically, it's one of those things. Better tools allow you to create better stuff. Better stuff allows you to make better tools, and it allows you to, like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The better the tool, the better the product, better the tool, and it is going to keep reinforcing itself. So it is important, it is needed. So a lot of people poured their lot of sweat, blood and tears to make this puppy. So Tortoise CVS, this puppy, is free in open source, and it's used. This was the first tool that my company used. Again, for different project, we were in outsourcing company, so we worked based on the client. So many clients use this. So this is a free and open source one, and many people have forked it. Basically, they took the thing and they're like, you know what, this is a good core, but we do not like the GUI specifically. And they're like, hey, what if we added this features and refined it so it suits us? So it created a new system, Tortoise SVN. We know this word, SVN. It's a very common thing, SVN. So Tortoise SVN. There are other versions also, but you get the point. Basically, this was the free and open source, and people forked it to suit their needs. Many of them are free and open source, many are proprietary. So Tortoise CVS, and it just allows you to have this. Basically, I'm working on a gaming system. Everything is there, everything file is there. So in the morning, I'll just right click, update, SVN update. What does that mean? That simply means it's going to pull everything from the repository. So last day's whole commit will be there. I'm going to open the file. I'm going to look what everybody did yesterday. And then when commit is there below, that means I'm pushing it on the repository. So we learned it. Like it's annoying, but like you have to learn to do this and do it properly. Worst case scenario, somebody accidentally deleted an important folder and committed that deleted it from repository. Of course, we could do rollback, and we did do rollback, but it was like hell lot of a hassle. So it's one of those things. And then you have Perforce. Perforce is also very popular and known. It's also used by many other studios. It's paid. Now, like, wait a minute, if this is free and people can modify it for their own version, why the heck they're gonna pay for it? To best of my knowledge is this puppy does not like to work on multiple servers. This puppy can handle that. Basically, this allows much bigger complexity project to be run. Again, this is deep programming level. This is a bit beyond me. So it's up to you. And there are far more options than this. Is the two popular one that I have worked in the past. Now let's talk about the daddy one. So the daddy is GitHub. So GitHub had a foundation known as Git. Now Git was made by Linus Torvalds, this gentleman and his team, and they released this puppy in 2005. Let that sink in. Like, if you're like, how the heck we are doing so much programming and all that, tools were being made. And GitHub was made by this gentleman in basically Tom Paris in 2008. So Git was made, and somebody was like, hey, Git is cool, Git is awesome, Git is local, but what if we had global Git? So they created GitHub. So idea is basically the repository, instead of being in your system, it's physically in a server, which has much higher reliability. So that became a thing. Now it was a startup. Basically, GitHub was a startup, and they funded it, self-funded it, bootstrap funding as they call it. And then they got a lot of venture capital funds, and they were actually surprisingly cash positive somehow. And of course, they were offering services to professional companies, they were like, shut up, take money. And they were making around few $1 billion annually. Like they touched almost $1 billion annually very early on. Then Microsoft acquired these puppy in 2018 and the world changed forever. And yes, it did change forever because of that. So as of now, again, people are shifting to some other things as of now because of some things, but as of now, it's the biggest resource of programming right now. Like heck, you think about OBS, where do you think the source file is kept? If you think about VLC, where do you think the source file is kept? So every time, like you just look into it, it's like, okay, GitHub. Everything, all the road leads to GitHub. Now, of course, it's not true with everywhere, especially in pharmaceutical industry and basically defense contracts. Defense contract, they do not take the idea of uploading the file to someone else. So they will take the Git, bake their own solutions, and it's gonna like Lockheed Martin, they're gonna have like Git, they're gonna take it and they're gonna bake their own puppy with own encryption and all that, and they're gonna keep it local, completely air-gapped from the world. They have to, ideally. If they do not, God help them. So this is the biggest programming resource at this point in time. Now, you can find projects in there that are free and open source. Heck, my own free and open source project that I have built with the help of you guys, Serial to CSV. And then there are multi-billion-dollar projects. Majority of programming resources just go through there. Even with the proprietary million-dollar thing, most of them go there. Like just accept it. At this point in time, almost everything goes there. All scales, like from free VLCs to like multi-billion-dollar project. Now, Microsoft did something very clever with this. They bought it, and many people were like, what was the use of Microsoft buying this in 2018? They were feeding that data to OpenAI. OpenAI was feeding that data to ChatGPT. That's why I said it changed the game. They were playing freaking 5D chess before anybody even realized the 4D chess existed. They were like ahead. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody must have talked to them. It's like, bro, we are baking something cool here, but we need to give it data, man. We need to give it some good data. They're like, okay, we're going to buy the world's biggest data source, GitHub. So right now, if you ever wondered how the heck ChatGPT knows how to code, like his deal, if anybody, it cannot do, I paid for ChatGPT 4 and the Serial to CSV project, I started based on it. So I went from a guy who does not know what programming is to actually building an application that was in working state in less than a day using ChatGPT. If you say AI is not AI, is just guessing, it's like, no, it's AI. Now, of course, it's a dummy. It's a starter puppy, but here's it. It's a starter puppy I paid for. Very little amount of money, and it worked, and it's getting better because again, I did try with ChatGPT 3.5, it worked. I did try with ChatGPT 4, it did crash sometimes, but it always allowed me to roll back to it. I'm like, damn. So ChatGPT has entered the chat, GitHub, and people are now moving to Git table, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the daddy. At this point in time, if you want to touch any sort of project that you want to work with other people that are not physically in the same building, sooner or later you're gonna have to use GitHub or you're gonna bake your own solution. So trust me, it's one of those things that you must learn, because anything else that is in the industry generally tries to imitate the behavior of this because it's so popular. Now, allow me to put some serious warning here, because again, this is my repository, basically Python based PC app, and first rule of computer still applies here. What is the first rule of computer? Garbage in equals garbage out. That's the law. So if you do not spend time in versioning itself, it's not going to work for you. And basically, any time you spend writing a good comment for yourself, that will be, let's say, 1 minute of a comment, it's going to save tomorrow a lot of hours. Like, I have learned this the hard way when I was working in a game studio. Trust me, we all go through this. It's like, okay, that's why we have to do goddamn comments. And like, we had a senior who was like very methodic with comments, rarely had any issues. We were just rolling back and forth, and it's like, why? Because we were not writing comments. Like, but this time again, I have learned my lesson, so everything is very clear. It's like, removed player as dependency, unlocked the limit of 10 hertz, enhancement using this separate system, moved all the images to assets folder, everything. Now again, it does not need to be a paragraph. However, Git does allow you to do that. They know for a fact that sometimes you may need a big merger. You do need that. So they will have a title and they're going to have giant description. Trust me, if it's a big jump, add it. So this is very important thing. You must learn it. Like, garbage in equals garbage. Like, if you just like commit 1, commit 2, or you don't just you do not have to. There is no mandatory rule that you must put a comment there. But trust me, you should. You must. So your future version does not help your past version, which cannot change anything. So 1 minute today saves hours tomorrow. So it's one of those things. Be very simple. Be concise. Do not try to like, oh, I got a feedback from my art director, we have to change this. No, no, it's like, I'm changing this. Simple. Simple, concise. Do not try to be smart about it. Be simple, be concise, and you're gonna thank me later. If you have not learned it already, if you are a programmer, there is a very good chance you've already been bitch slapped enough times that you know this. And here's the, especially for new people who are starting to think about an open source project, sort this out before you jump into the project. Now, again, it's obvious for everyone, but not for every single individual, is that all of you must be on the same page. To make sure you are in the same page, figure out the tool. It could be Git, it could be GitHub, it could be SVN, it could be whatever else, but it has to be sorted before you start the project. Even if it requires, hey, we need to spend 1 or 2 days learning about this, trust me, that would be worth it. I have learned it the hard way just recently in my year-end break. So trust me, it's compulsory that every individual members of your team knows how to use this sort of repository tools. Again, whatever the tool may be, but the idea remains the same. The core principle remains the same. They all of them must know what they are doing, why they are doing it, and commenting properly, so their future version do not hate themselves. It's like if they need to roll back, I can go very, very easily roll back. Like here's the deal: I deleted the serial monitor, but let's say somebody was, hey, I need the serial monitor. Boom. That's exactly where I deleted. You can go there. Refactored same code. Refactored same code again. In the description, there is 4 more details there. And like, updated README file. A lot of information. The more information you add, the less hassle your future version is going to have. So it's one of those things. And this is the most biggest nightmare if people are not clearful with single file system. Hello world, hello dog, hello cat, boom. This is what we say code exploded. It's one of those things where it's like, God help you if that happens. So every team must learn it. And here's the deal. You have to be constantly vigilant about this, because here's the deal. Many times things sneak into it. Like for example, again, because we were not very thorough with this, we had a problem solved, like, oh, start stop button. It was a function. We sorted it out, but it was not synced properly. It literally moved forward, and then randomly in one testing hour, hey, wait a minute, why the heck start stop is not working? Then we had to roll back because it was not done correctly. It was a hassle. So here's the deal. You want to be productive, be vigilant in this phase, and you're gonna have a much smoother experience. And limit, restraints, and roles are the key to getting in this part. Limits, as in like, do not try to commit every single thing. And that's why I said like auto hotkey saves you in this regard, where you're like, hey, what if I need to save multiple files? Yeah, keep saving it. But the main file, when you want to do, you can commit it. Let's say for our case, it was recommended to commit 2 times a day. Basically one update in the morning, update in the, basically commit in the afternoon lunch break, and then we're going to commit at the day end. So it was generally recommended. Do not try to flood this with thousands of things. So limits is very requirement. So like, be mindful of what you're doing. Restraint. Do not try to work on someone else's thing. So like, especially if you are in one single code script file, God help you. Like there will be temptation. What if I change that? No, conflict will happen. Restraint is there. And roles. There has to be someone whose sole job is to conflict mitigation. And yes, in big companies, there are people whose sole job is that. They're gonna figure out which is the dependency, which is causing the boom boom event. There are people whose sole job is just that. And trust me, there are programmers, and then there are people who manage this. So you want to go from here to here, you need to learn this puppy. So there's clear warning. This tool will not magically save your life. As long as you learn to use it effectively, it's going to give you an effective workforce that will allow you to get more work done very effectively. You can easily notice it, like good companies that are like very efficient, they're going to have a very thorough naming conventions. Like this is exactly what we are naming, why we are naming it, and this is how we are going to comment it and why we are doing it. Trust me, I've noticed the difference in night and day. So this was just a warning. Just because you can learn how to use it and you do not have the good, what you call hygiene, file hygiene, would help you. So this was my presentation on basically file versioning. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.